The obsidian chambers of the royal vessel thrummed with a cold, mechanical silence that seemed to devour all hope. Princess Aelia stood motionless, her translucent skin betraying every internal tremor, each pulse of fear creating rippling patterns of bioluminescent blue and silver that traced intricate, involuntary maps of her terror. King Selthor was not merely looking at her. He was dissecting her with a gaze that had condemned entire planetary populations to extinction. His exoskeletal frame, adorned with ceremonial battle carapace that gleamed with generations of conquered civilizations, towered over her fragile form. Genetic designation, F-nullmine, he intoned, his voice a razor-edged frequency that cut through the ship's atmosphere. Biological assessment confirms total incompatibility with royal lineage protocols. Aelia's bioluminescence flickered, a desperate language of fear that no one aboard would understand. Among the Zarkon, genetic perfection was not just a preference. It was religion, law, and absolute judgment. Her rare condition made her less than nothing, a genetic anomaly to be erased. The ship's internal systems projected her medical scans, a holographic nightmare of her biological failures. Weakened cellular regeneration, compromised immune response, neurological pathways that deviated from the strict Zarkon genetic templates. Each projection was another nail in her biological coffin. The traditional resolution would be immediate cellular dissolution. Selthor continued, his mandibles clicking with clinical detachment. However, diplomatic protocols require alternative disposal. Earth was chosen not out of mercy, but calculated indifference. A primitive planet with diverse ecosystems and chaotic biological interactions. If the human species didn't outright kill her, she would likely perish from environmental incompatibility. A perfect, passive execution. When the diplomatic shuttle landed in a suburban neighborhood in San Diego, California, it did so with zero fanfare. No alarms, no dramatic entrance, just a sudden, impossible presence on a quiet street lined with palm trees and meticulously maintained lawns. Elena Rodriguez was watering her front garden when the ship materialized. A veteran of 3 interstellar conflict zones, with cybernetic enhancement scars visible on her left temple, she didn't flinch. Where others would see an impossible event, she saw a potential mission. Aelia tumbled from the ship's exit port like a broken doll. Her alien physiology was already beginning to react to Earth's atmosphere, each breath a potential fatal interaction. Translucent skin was turning a sickly pale, bioluminescent patterns becoming erratic warning signals of systemic shock. Genetic transfer initiated. A cold mechanical voice emerged from the ship. Recipient species, human. Genetic subject. Disposal protocol activated. Before the ship could fully dematerialize, Elena was already moving. Her cybernetic leg, a remnant of her military service, carried her across the lawn with impossible speed. Medical training, xenobiological research experience, and a mother's instantaneous protective instinct converged in a single moment. The alien girl was dying. Not dramatically, not with some grand alien theatrical collapse, but with the quiet, terrifying efficiency of a biological system completely incompatible with its environment. Miguel Rodriguez, Elena's husband, a quantum computing specialist currently working on classified xenodaptive technologies, emerged from the house. One look was enough. No words were needed between them. They had discussed potential first contact scenarios hundreds of times. Never had they imagined it would happen like this. Their teenage son Carlos watched from the front door, his initial shock giving way to a complex mixture of scientific curiosity and teenage rebellion against yet another weird thing happening in their already unconventional household. King Selthor's final transmission was both a command and a death sentence. Genetic designation F-nullmine. Terminated. But on a quiet street in San Diego, surrounded by blooming bougainvillea and the soft hum of suburban life, a different story was about to begin. Aelia's first breath on Earth was not her last. It was the first note in a symphony of survival that would eventually shake entire civilizations. The Rodriguez family didn't know it yet, but they had just become architects of a revolution. The first week was a medical nightmare that would have broken any other being. Alia's alien physiology turned every moment into a battle against extinction. Her cellular structure rejected everything: Earth's atmosphere, water, even the most basic nutrients. The Rodriguez family's home transformed into a high-stakes laboratory of survival. Miguel's quantum computing lab became her intensive care unit. Holographic displays tracked her biological responses with terrifying precision. Each minute was a war against total systemic collapse. Her bioluminescent skin flickered like a dying signal, broadcasting her body's constant struggle in patterns of blue, silver, and desperate crimson. "Her cellular membrane is completely incompatible," Miguel muttered, fingers dancing across quantum interface panels. Lines of alien genetic code scrolled faster than human eyes could track. "It's not just immune response. Her entire biological framework is fundamentally different." Elena, with her military medical background, approached the problem like a tactical mission. Where traditional xenobiology would have declared Alia's condition terminal, she saw a challenge to be conquered. Her cybernetic enhancements allowed her to process medical data at superhuman speeds, connecting patterns that would escape conventional medical understanding. Carlos, initially skeptical and somewhat resentful of the alien intrusion, found himself drawn into the medical drama. His teenage fascination with extreme biology and cutting-edge technology turned professional detachment into personal investment. He began documenting every moment, creating a comprehensive xenobiological study that would later become groundbreaking research. The breakthrough came from an unexpected intersection of technologies. Miguel's quantum adaptive algorithms, combined with Elena's military-grade nanomedical protocols, created a hybrid treatment approach that was nothing short of revolutionary. They weren't just trying to keep Alia alive, they were teaching her body how to survive. Day 17 marked the first genuine sign of hope. Alia's bioluminescent responses began to stabilize, no longer wildly fluctuating but forming more consistent patterns. Her body was learning, adapting in real time to an environment that should have killed her within hours of arrival. "It's like her genetic structure is a living computer," Carlos observed during one of his late-night research sessions. "Every environmental input is being processed, analyzed, and integrated." The training became a brutal, beautiful process of survival. Elena designed protocols that pushed Alia's limits, controlled environmental stressors that forced her body to adapt. One moment might involve exposure to simulated atmospheric variations, the next a series of physical challenges that would test the limits of her developing capabilities. Alia's first true moment of triumph came unexpectedly. During a controlled stress test, her body suddenly manifested a defensive mechanism that left the entire Rodriguez family stunned. When a simulated threat was introduced, her skin transformed, hardening into a semi-crystalline structure that absorbed and redistributed kinetic energy. "Holy shit," Carlos whispered, his monitoring equipment going wild. "She just weaponized her own biology." Miguel's quantum displays showed something even more remarkable. Alia wasn't just surviving. She was evolving. Each challenge was being processed, analyzed, and integrated into her genetic structure with a speed and efficiency that defied every known biological law. The alien princess who arrived as a seemingly fragile being was transforming. Her bioluminescence now told a different story, no longer a signal of weakness, but a dynamic, living communication system that tracked her incredible adaptation. By the end of the first month, the Rodriguez family realized they weren't just saving an alien life. They were witnessing the birth of something entirely new. A living bridge between species, a biological technology that could rewrite everything known about genetic potential. Alia looked different now. Her eyes, once filled with terror, now held something else. Something that looked remarkably like purpose. The crucible of transformation was just beginning. The quantum adaptive implant procedure was more than a medical intervention. It was a calculated violation of every known biological and technological boundary. Dr. Aria Chen, A quantum xenobiology specialist brought in by Miguel stood at the intersection of impossible technologies. Her reputation preceded her, a maverick who had been exiled from traditional research circles for theories that challenged fundamental understanding of biological adaptation. "We're not just augmenting," she explained to the Rodriguez family, her holographic displays dancing with complex genetic algorithms. "We're creating a living interface between alien biology and human technological potential." The laboratory was a fortress of cutting-edge technology. Quantum entanglement generators hummed with barely contained energy. Nanofabrication units created microscopic implants that defied conventional engineering principles. Each piece of equipment represented millions of dollars in classified research, requisitioned through Miguel's extensive military scientific connections. Alia lay suspended in a quantum stabilization field, her body a canvas of potential. Her alien physiology, already demonstrated to be extraordinarily adaptive, would either be the key to breakthrough or the instrument of catastrophic failure. The first layer of implants was quantum reactive nanomaterials. Unlike traditional cybernetic enhancements, these were living technologies, capable of real-time adaptation, communication, and self-modification. They didn't just augment, they learned. Carlos monitored the procedure with a mixture of scientific excitement and familial terror. His custom-built monitoring systems tracked every microscopic change, every quantum fluctuation. Dozens of holographic displays surrounded him, each representing a different level of biological and technological interaction. "Quantum entanglement stabilization at 62%, he called out. "Cellular integration protocol initiating." The moment of insertion was nothing like anyone expected. Instead of a clinical intervention, it was a violent, beautiful transformation. Alia's bioluminescent skin erupted in complex patterns, neural maps of technological integration that no one could fully comprehend. Dr. Chen's voice was a mix of scientific wonder and barely contained excitement. Her biological system isn't just accepting the implants, it's negotiating with them, creating a symbiotic network that's completely unprecedented. 3 days of absolute uncertainty followed. Alia hovered between life and death, her body a battlefield of technological and biological forces. The Rodriguez family took shifts, their military and scientific backgrounds turning medical vigil into a tactical mission. When she finally awakened, the world changed. Her eyes were different. No longer just windows to an alien consciousness, they were active interfaces. Quantum adaptive pupils could process visual information at speeds that made human perception look primitive. Her skin, now a dynamic, living technology, could analyze environmental data in real time, transforming input into actionable intelligence. "Adaptive response protocols are off the charts," Miguel muttered, watching his monitoring systems go wild. "She's not just surviving, she's optimizing." The first true test came unexpectedly. A simple environmental stress test revealed capabilities that defied scientific understanding. Alia could now regulate her own body temperature across extreme variations, heal microscopic cellular damage instantaneously, and process sensory information with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Chen's initial report was both a scientific breakthrough and a potential warning. "We haven't just augmented an individual. We've created a living technological platform with capabilities we can barely comprehend." Carlos looked at his newly transformed sister with a mixture of scientific fascination and familial protectiveness. "What are you becoming?" he whispered. Alia's response was a subtle smile, and a quantum pulse that briefly disabled every electronic device in the room. The technological resurrection was complete, but its true potential was just beginning to unfold. The first transmission arrived like a quantum knife, precise, cutting, loaded with barely contained threat. King Selthor's diplomatic encryption was sophisticated, but not impenetrable. Not anymore. Carlos's custom-built quantum decryption matrix tore through the alien communication protocols like tissue paper, revealing a message that made the Rodriguez family's collective blood run cold. Genetic designation F09. Retrieval protocol activated. Alia's quantum adaptive implants hummed with a response before anyone could speak. Her bioluminescent skin projected holographic tactical maps, instantaneous strategic analysis that transformed the living room into a war room of impossible complexity. "They're not coming to retrieve," she said, her voice a complex harmonic that seemed to vibrate between human speech and something altogether alien. "They're coming to eliminate potential contamination." Miguel's military contacts had been quietly preparing. Years of classified research, connections forged in the most brutal interstellar conflict zones, now converged into a single, focused mission. The network they'd built wasn't just a communication system. It was a living, adaptive intelligence platform. Dr. Area Chen's research group, strategically positioned in key global research institutions, began implementing a coordinated information warfare strategy. Scientific papers, encrypted communications, subtle manipulations of global research databases. Each action, a calculated move in a game of interstellar chess. Carlos had become something more than a teenage researcher. His cybernetic interfaces, developed through years of experimental technology, allowed him to become Alia's digital shadow. Where she was the physical weapon, he was the information warfare specialist, tracking, predicting, manipulating alien communication networks with terrifying precision. The first wave of alien reconnaissance came through unexpected channels, not military, not diplomatic, but through the most invisible of networks, scientific research databases, quantum communication channels, the bleeding edge of technological exploration. Alia's quantum adaptive implants transformed the attack into an opportunity. Each probe, each attempt to gather intelligence, was not just blocked. It was studied, analyzed, turned into a weapon. "They're using a quantum entanglement communication protocol," Carlos muttered, his neural interfaces dancing with complex data streams. Dated, predictable, but with some serious computational power behind it. Belina, her military background transforming every moment into a tactical assessment, recognized the deeper strategy. This wasn't just a retrieval mission. It was a potential biological containment operation. Alia represented something far more dangerous than a simple genetic anomaly. She was a living technological platform that challenged everything the Zarkon understood about biological potential. The Rodriguez family's home transformed, not physically, but as a technological fortress. Quantum shielding generators, developed from Miguel's classified research, created an invisible barrier that could disrupt any incoming alien technological probes. Adaptive camouflage systems, originally developed for military stealth technology, now protected their most valuable asset. Alia was no longer just surviving. She was preparing to hunt. Her first move was elegant in its complexity. Using Carlos's information networks and her own quantum adaptive capabilities, she began to construct a counterintelligence profile, not just of the immediate retrieval team, but of the entire Zarkon diplomatic and military infrastructure. "They see me as a weapon to be recovered or destroyed," she said, her bioluminescent patterns creating a holographic projection of alien communication networks. "I'm going to show them I'm something else entirely." The hunting had begun, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The Zarkon assault team materialized with surgical precision, 12 of the most elite warriors ever produced by their genetic engineering programs. Biomechanical exoskeletons, quantum phase weaponry, neural link combat systems, they represented the pinnacle of alien military technology. They never stood a chance. Alia's quantum adaptive implants transformed the suburban San Diego neighborhood into a battlefield of impossible complexity. Her perception stretched beyond human or alien limitations, each incoming threat analyzed and countered before it could fully manifest. The first wave of attacks came in a synchronized quantum burst. Quantum phase disruptors designed to liquefy organic matter at the molecular level. Against a standard biological target, they would have been instantly fatal. Against Alia, they became nothing more than data points in her tactical assessment. Her bioluminescent skin shifted, not just a defensive mechanism, but an active combat interface. Microscopic nano-adaptive layers absorbed and redirected energy signatures, turning the most advanced alien weaponry into useless technological debris. Threat assessment complete. Alia's voice resonated through quantum communication channels, a harmonic that was simultaneously a weapon and a strategic broadcast. Carlos, connected through his custom neural interface, provided real-time tactical support. His fingers danced across quantum-encrypted communication matrices, jamming alien communication protocols, creating cascading disinformation networks that turned the Zarkan's tactical advantage into a labyrinth of confusion. The Rodriguez family's home became ground zero of a conflict that would reshape understanding of biological and technological warfare. Miguel's classified research systems activated, adaptive defense protocols that transformed the entire structure into a living, breathing tactical platform. Each Zarkan warrior represented years of genetic optimization, reflexes beyond human perception, molecular-level combat training, neural interfaces that could process combat information faster than any known biological system. Alia dismantled them like a surgeon. Her movement was not just speed, it was prediction. Quantum adaptive implants allowed her to see potential combat trajectories, to understand and counter threats before they could fully form. Where alien warriors saw a tactical approach, she saw entire probability matrices. The first 3 warriors fell without even understanding how they were defeated. Molecular disruption fields, originally designed as their ultimate weapon, became nothing more than data points in her tactical assessment. Their quantum phase weaponry reflected back, turning their most sophisticated technology into a weapon against them. Elena watched with a veteran's clinical precision. Her cybernetic enhancements allowed her to track the combat at speeds that would overwhelm standard human perception. What was happening was beyond warfare. It was a fundamental redefinition of biological potential. "She's not just fighting," Elena muttered. "She's evolving in real time." The neighborhood became a quantum battleground. Adaptive camouflage systems, developed through decades of classified military research, transformed ordinary suburban infrastructure into a tactical nightmare. Street signs became communication jammers. Landscaping became kinetic energy redirectors. By the time the final Zarkan warrior fell, the combat had lasted less than 17 seconds. Alia stood in the center of the transformed landscape. Her bioluminescent skin told a story of tactical complexity, shifting patterns that were simultaneously a combat log, a warning system, and a living communication network. "Message intercepted," she said, her voice a quantum harmonic that would be heard across multiple communication spectrums. "The hunting is just beginning." Carlos's neural interface captured something else, a transmission that would change everything. Hidden within the tactical data was a message, not just from the Zarkan assault team, but directly from King Excelfor himself. The quantum broadcast went viral across multiple galactic communication networks simultaneously, not through traditional channels, but through a complex web of scientific, diplomatic, and encrypted pathways that Carlos and Alia had meticulously constructed. Genetic records, diplomatic communications, classified military protocols. Everything the Zarkan believed was secure became a weapon against them. Dr. Arya Chen activated the next phase of their strategic assault from a secure research facility in Shanghai. Her quantum data analysis team had been preparing for this moment, transforming Alia's story from a personal narrative into a systemic indictment of the entire Zarkan civilization. "It's not just about exposing their military failures," Chen explained to the Rodriguez family during an encrypted conference. "We're dismantling their entire social and genetic ideology." The broadcasts revealed everything: the systematic genetic culling, the brutal elimination of those deemed imperfect, the complex web of biological and social hierarchies that had defined Zarkan civilization for millennia, all laid bare in exquisite, devastating detail. Miguel's classified research networks amplified the transmission. Each piece of information was a precision-guided missile, targeting the core of Zarkan's societal structures, scientific institutions, diplomatic channels, military communication networks, all became conduits for a revolutionary message. Alia was no longer just a survivor. She was a living critique of an entire civilization's fundamental beliefs. The first cracks appeared in the Zarkon High Council within hours. Internal communication networks showed increasing fractures, genetic administrators questioning centuries of established protocols, military leaders challenging the foundational assumptions of their genetic engineering programs. Carlos tracked the systemic collapse in real time. His custom-built quantum analysis systems transformed diplomatic communications into a living, breathing map of societal disintegration. Each intercepted message was another nail in the coffin of the Zarkon's rigid social structure. "They're cannibalizing themselves," Carlos muttered, watching holographic displays of cascading communication breakdowns. "Every attempt to contain the information is creating more vulnerability." Delina recognized the tactical brilliance. This was psychological warfare at its most sophisticated, not through direct confrontation, but through the strategic exposure of systemic weakness. The Rodriguez family had transformed an act of abandonment into a fundamental challenge to an entire civilization's ideology. The scientific community became an unexpected battleground. Research institutions across multiple alien civilizations began demanding access to the data, to Alia's genetic records, to the comprehensive analysis of Zarkon genetic practices. What had been a closed hierarchical system was being forcibly opened. King Selthor's attempts to control the narrative only accelerated the collapse. Each official communication became another opportunity for exposure, another chance to reveal the fundamental contradictions in Zarkon ideology. Genetic potential is not defined by perfection. Alia's quantum broadcast declared. It is defined by the capacity to adapt, to transform, to survive. The message resonated beyond the Zarkon civilization. Other alien species, many with their own complex genetic and social hierarchies, watched the systemic collapse with a mixture of horror and fascination. By the end of the first solar cycle, the Zarkon genetic engineering programs were in complete disarray. Research facilities that had operated for millennia were being dismantled. Entire administrative structures were collapsing under the weight of their own exposed contradictions. Carlos looked at Alia, a mixture of scientific fascination and familial pride in his eyes. What happens next? Alia's response was a quantum pulse that momentarily disrupted every communication network within a 1,000-mile radius, a subtle reminder that their strategic assault was far from over. The systemic collapse had only just begun. The Interstellar Scientific Concordance convened in a moment of unprecedented tension. 12 different alien civilizations, each with their own complex genetic and social hierarchies, found themselves confronting a revolutionary challenge that threatened the very foundations of their understanding of biological potential. Alia stood at the center of a quantum-projected conference chamber, her mere presence a living argument against millennia of established genetic doctrine. Her bioluminescent skin projected real-time data streams, complex holographic representations of genetic potential that defied every known scientific classification. Dr. Aria Chen, now acting as primary scientific interpreter, presented a case that would reshape galactic understanding. Genetic potential is not a fixed state, she declared, her voice cutting through multiple translation matrices. It is a dynamic, adaptive system that cannot be predetermined or controlled. The representatives from the Voric Genetic Consortium looked particularly horrified. Their entire civilization was built on a rigid system of genetic classification and stratification. Alia's very existence was a direct challenge to their most fundamental beliefs. Carlos managed the quantum communication networks, ensuring that every moment of the conference was simultaneously broadcast and encrypted across multiple communication spectrums. The Rodriguez family had transformed from a simple human household into the epicenter of a galactic philosophical revolution. Miguel's classified research databases provided the scientific ammunition. Comprehensive genetic analysis, quantum adaptive research protocols, detailed breakdown of the Zarkon's systemic failures. Each piece of data was a precision-guided intellectual weapon. The Quantum Genetic Tribunal, a rare gathering of the most advanced scientific minds in known space, listened with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing alarm. Alia was not just presenting a case. She was demonstrating the entirely new understanding of biological potential. "Observe," she said, her quantum adaptive implants creating a living demonstration of genetic plasticity. Her body became a dynamic interface, molecular structures shifting, adaptive capabilities manifesting in real time. What had once been seen as a genetic weakness was now a revolutionary strength. Elena watched with a veteran's strategic eye. This was more than a scientific conference. This was a fundamental challenge to galactic social structures. Each alien civilization was being forced to confront the deepest assumptions about genetic potential, social hierarchy, and the nature of biological adaptation. The Zarkon diplomatic representatives attempted to interrupt, to challenge. Each attempt was systematically dismantled, not through aggression, but through a comprehensive demonstration of the limitations of their own thinking. Quantum data streams showed the cascading impact. Research institutions across multiple civilizations were already beginning to reevaluate their fundamental approaches to genetic research. Entire fields of study were being dismantled and reconstructed in real time. "Genetic potential is not about perfection," Alia declared, her voice a quantum harmonic that cut through multiple communication spectrums. "It is about the capacity to adapt, to transform, to survive." The final presentation was a comprehensive deconstruction of genetic determinism. Using her own body as a living demonstration, Alia showed how adaptive potential transcends predetermined genetic limitations. Each molecular shift, each adaptive response was a direct challenge to millennia of established scientific doctrine. By the conference's conclusion, something fundamental had changed. The Rodriguez family had transformed from a simple human household into the architects of a galactic philosophical revolution. Carlos looked at his sister with a mixture of scientific pride and familial love. "What happens next?" he whispered. Alia's response was a quantum pulse that momentarily disrupted every communication network in the chamber, a subtle reminder that their revolutionary journey was far from over. The galactic reckoning had only just begun. The final confrontation was not a battle. It was a deconstruction. King Selthor stood before the Zarkon High Council, his once imposing exoskeleton now a brittle reminder of a dying ideology. Alia's quantum adaptive broadcast had transformed him from a galactic ruler to a relic, a living testament to the very system of genetic oppression he had once championed. The Rodriguez family surrounded her, not as protectors, but as architects of a revolution that would reshape multiple civilizations. "You sought to destroy me." Alia's voice resonated through quantum communication channels, "because you could not understand me." Her bioluminescent skin told a story more complex than any diplomatic transmission. Each pulse of light was a living data stream, genetic potential made visible, adaptation transformed into a language of its own. The quantum adaptive implants that once seemed like a desperate medical intervention had become something far more profound. Miguel's research databases had prepared for this moment. Comprehensive genetic analysis, quantum adaptive protocols, detailed breakdown of the Zarkon's systemic failures. Each piece of data was a precision-guided intellectual weapon. Carlos managed the communication networks, ensuring that every moment was simultaneously broadcast and encrypted. The Rodriguez family had transformed from a simple human household into the architects of a galactic philosophical revolution. Dr. Aria Chen stood as scientific interpreter, her presence a bridge between human innovation and alien potential. "Genetic potential is not a fixed state," she declared. "It is a dynamic adaptive system that cannot be predetermined or controlled." The confrontation was a systematic dismantling of everything the Zarkon believed about biological hierarchy. Alia was not seeking revenge. She was offering a fundamental reimagining of existence. Her demonstration was brutal in its elegance. Using her own body as a living interface, she showed the comprehensive adaptive capabilities that her father's civilization had sought to destroy. Molecular structures shifted in real time. Adaptive responses manifested with quantum precision, What had once been seen as a genetic weakness was now a revolutionary strength. Elena watched with a veteran's strategic eye. This was more than a personal confrontation. This was a comprehensive challenge to an entire civilization's understanding of life itself. King Selthor attempted to interrupt, to challenge. Each attempt was systematically dismantled, not through aggression, but through a comprehensive demonstration of the limitations of his own thinking. "I am not your weapon," Aelia declared. "I am not your failure. I am the future you could not imagine." The quantum broadcast went beyond the immediate chamber. Scientific institutions across multiple civilizations watched in real time as the foundations of genetic determinism crumbled. Research protocols were being rewritten. Social hierarchies were being challenged. The Rodriguez family had become more than supporters. They were co-architects of a revolution that transcended species, biology, and understanding. Carlos looked at his sister with a mixture of scientific pride and familial love. "What happens next?" he whispered. Aelia's response was a quantum pulse that momentarily disrupted every communication network, a subtle reminder that their journey was far from over. The initiative she established was not a conquest. It was a bridge. The Interspecies Adaptive Potential Institute would become a beacon of a new understanding, not of genetic perfection, but of comprehensive, dynamic potential. King Selthor was not defeated. He was transformed. As the quantum communication channels went silent, one message remained clear: survival is not about perfection. It is about the capacity to adapt, to transform, to rise. The story of the abandoned princess had become something far greater, a revolution written in the language of potential itself.